Let's move on to our last team, 49ers. 13-4 last year. Vegas has them at 10.5. So Vegas isn't too high on them. I thought that would have been a little higher, but 10.5. Brock Purdy, as we said earlier on in the news and notes, he is not have a designation because when I was writing up my notes for this episode, I was talking about Purdy, Darnold, and Trey Lance, who to start the season. Has Purdy earned the starting role? Obviously, he has, and I think Purdy starts the role. Yes. Here's the question before we Purdy's a quarterback that's going to fall into that same category as your Stafford and your Carr and all those guys down there. He was very good. And he was very efficient late in the season in the games he did play. He had multiple multi-touchdown games, which was huge. Again, it's a small sample size. You're extrapolating that out. Can he do that for a season long coming off an injury? Who knows? So I think his ADP speaks for that. But he's got the players around him that we're going to talk about to do it. Do you think they go to Trey Lance or they put a package together for Trey Lance for some rushing ability or anything like that?
No. Why would you when you have Christian McCaffrey and Debo? Like, why?
Correct. No. I know. I'm just saying. I'm throwing that question out there. And do you think they trade him?
Do you think they try and trade him? No, the market's not there.
Yeah, I think it was a bum pick on their end. It stinks. I didn't like it when they traded up for him there.
Why? All things lead to good things. And it led to them drafting Brock Purdy.
Yeah, that's a good point. So anyway, I like Brock Purdy. I'm taking him down in that, like I said, in that group of guys down below.
What I think is a significant news about Purdy starting the season is I actually would, we talked about our tight end rankings where I had Hockenson over Kittle, and I think I would have Kittle over Hockenson now. Now that Purdy started the season.
Hockenson.
Yeah, I know you did.
I'm getting happier. I'm getting higher on Hockenson though. I'm still not shifting the numbers around. Because I'm still putting Waller up at 3 because of just his ceiling. But I know you don't like that, but I do. But I think
3 games played.
I do like Hockenson, and I think Kittle here. We could talk about Kittle now. He was tight end 4, or he's going tight end 4 overall, or 52 overall in ADP. He was 3rd in yards after the catch for tight ends behind Kels and Hockenson last year. That was one of the numbers that made me a little higher on Hockenson.
Yeah, go look at the stats on Kittle with Purdy, and he was heavily targeted. And again, we talked about Debo just being a guy that we don't like and we're staying away from this year. And I think that's a general consensus. Like he's this goes without saying, he's a freak athlete. But I think in terms of this offense and how they want to run people in this offense, he's the odd man out. I think Ayuk and Kittle are the guys that benefited most from Purdy coming in and playing. And this offense is going to revolve around running the football. And that's with both McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell. And
it just wasn't Purdy. It was also McCaffrey coming in too. Like you just said.
Of course.
Christian McCaffrey in the running game makes a huge difference.
Of course. But in terms of Kittle, you look at his production and him and Ayuk really stepped it up with Purdy. And they were heavily targeted down the field. I mean, you had Kittle have, I think, 2 or 3 multi-touchdown games with Purdy.
He had 3 in the last 4 regular season games.
Multi-touchdown games.
Multi-touchdown.
Yeah.
He was a ghost in the wild card division, though. Really. Oh no, never mind. Divisional round, he did have 95 yards, been of touchdowns, but he did have a 95-yard game. That's where the competition gets stiffens. So. Yeah.
And then let's not even talk about the championship game.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about the conference championship game against the Eagles. That's kind of BS.
Where McCaffrey.
We both have Kittle as our number 2. Like you're ranking him with Purdy as your number 2. I have him as my number 2. I like this guy. Or my number 3. Sorry, number 3. And I like this guy a lot. It's tough to say because the hard part is when you're drafting a tight end and you don't get Kels, who's probably going to be a first round. Late second round, if your league doesn't value Kels like you should. The question is always, where do you draft Mark Andrews? How far does he fall till he's worth taking in that round? And to me, I agree. It's like Andrews and Kittle and Hockenson and to me, Waller, and I know not Chris, but those guys in that span, they're not round 2 picks to me. Like you're not taking those guys in round 2. And if you are, you're sacrificing something. So Kittle's somebody, if he falls to me in the 4th round and I've already got myself a pair of running backs and a pair of receivers, and I don't want to get maybe one of the top quarterbacks, or I don't like the receivers around him, the value that's going to be there for him, I take him there. I would definitely take him there. But I'd rather take Kittle in the 5th round if I can, early 5th round, and be happy with taking one of the top 5 guys. But
I'd rather take Christian McCaffrey in the 5th round too. But the truth is, he's not going to be there.
It's not going to be there. So it's like, are you going to be the guy in your league that jumps up to take this guy, and how long are you willing to wait? That's what you got to ask yourself when drafting tight ends.
Yeah,
after Kels, really.
I think those are the 4 that are worth it that we talked about, and this is actually a tight end we can dive into. And you can make the argument for him being in that value in the top 4 rounds. I think those are the 4 guys that you would want to draft. Kels is a round 1 guy, and you can make the argument for Mark Andrews being a round 2 guy. I can see it. If Lamar Jackson's healthy, there are other pass catchers there, and Mark Andrews is still going to be the guy that's going to be volume. He's a great pass catcher. He's great in the red zone. And then same with Kittle and Hawkinson. Their upside is just so huge from a standpoint of, there's only 4 guys at that position that are consistent or semi-consistent. And those are the 4. And they're worth a 4th round draft pick. Kittle and Hawkinson are 100% are worth a 4th round draft pick.
That's what I'm saying. I like them in the 4th round because you literally get the value. The wide receivers around them in the 4th round are going to be equivalent to the output they're going to be able to give you.
Here's the argument is you can go and get a receiver. So if you're sitting there in the 4th round, the receivers that you can get in the 5th round are going to be comparable to the 4th round, but the tight ends you're going to get in the 5th round and after these guys are not comparable to them. Goddard, and for me, Waller is not comparable to Kittle or Hawkinson or Andrews.
So 4th round, Hawkinson's in there. Obviously, you're looking at most like Amari Cooper. You're looking Deebo Samuel. You're looking at Keenan Allen in the early 4th round. Then you got George Kittle at the beginning of the 5th round. In this one, they have him 52 overall. But DeAndre Hopkins, McLaurin, they're all around him. So after you go down there and you get a little bit further and you're talking about Drake London's, you're talking about Mike Williams, Christian Kirk, you're talking about Dallas Goedert at that point, and the tight ends past that. So you really got to be, if you want to take the value, you want to get one of the top tight ends to have a every week starter.
Yeah. Where's the split? If you take Goddard versus Kittle, where's the split there versus taking a guy like Christian Kirk versus Cooper?
So if you've got,
I'm speaking just.
Oh yeah, just hypothetically, yeah. So they got Kittle at 52 here, and they've got Goddard at 68, Waller 69, Pitts at 62. So there's a 10 pick, whole nother round, pretty much difference of those other tight ends after Kittle. And again, the wide receivers that are down there are still your big Christian Kirks. We're still talking about Tyler Lockett's. We're still talking about all those guys. I'd rather have those receivers than Goddard, and right. Schultz and those tight ends. So that's a good argument to make, right. Is take your shot with Kittle, knowing that you got the good receivers in those other rounds too.
Right.
Speaking of other receivers, one of those who's in those rounds is Brandon Ayuk, and he's going currently wide receiver 30, 71 overall. Last year was a huge breakout season for him. His targets were over 100. He led the team there. He had eight touchdowns. He ended up wide receiver 15. He had a 22% target share, that's a pretty darn good number, but that's still not wide receiver 1 numbers. But again, you do have Kittle and CMC and Deebo still. You got other people splitting that pie a little bit bigger. He had the same amount of target share as Terry McLaurin did for the Commanders, to put that in perspective. So still pretty good. And he doubled Deebo Samuel in receptions of 10 plus and 20 plus yards. He doubled Deebo's numbers.
And he's going to do it again.
So
again, with I think Purdy and him and Kittle have a connection where they are. That's the kind of routes that Purdy likes to throw. It's not the Deebo. Deebo's going to still have a role in this offense. Deebo's still going to get his. He's going to still have games, but we've talked about this all offseason too with value. Ayuk's value is better than Debo's, and it's not an argument. Like, I'm not saying he's a better player. I'm not saying he's a better athlete, but his value is much better because the end of season production is going to be very comparable, if not better, from Ayuk, and you're going to get him 2 rounds later after Debo. So there's no argument you can make to tell me that Debo Samuel is a better player on your team, on your fantasy team, than Brandon Ayuk is. There's no argument you can make to me.
Well, yeah, Debo, and we'll roll into Debo here, and I'll talk about both of them at the same time. But Debo's wide receiver 16, 38th overall. So you're getting him at the beginning of the 4th round versus Ayuk is going 71st overall, which is literally the end of the 6th round. So to me, when I look at it all, Debo had less than 100 targets last year. He went from 1,400 yards to 600 yards in one season. He had an 18.7% target share, so a whole almost 4 points of percentage. His yards per target dropped dramatically, and I think that's what hurt him the most. It went from 11.7 yards per target to 6.3. There's no wide receiver 1 out there that's going to get you wide receiver 1 finish with a 6.3 yards per target. To me, I like Ayuk over Debo here. I think the ADP is skewed big time. I think Debo's a name. I think he's a talented athlete. Big dime. But the thing to me is Debo's role that he had when he had the 1,400-yard season and he had all this work. And the problem with him is he's not going to be using the running game because you've got 2 capable running backs. He's not going to be using a downfield threat because Ayuk is better at that. And then same thing goes with Kittle over the middle. He's better at that. So they had to find ways to get him the ball, swing passes, screen passes, bubble screens, short outs, slants, and do stuff like that. But his yards after the catch dipped down so low because his yards per target was so low. He had people on him right away. He had no chance to get separation, which tells you a little bit about him in terms of getting separation too.
This is a really bold statement, okay, that I'm about to make, is that I think the Niners would be better off trading him, not cutting him. I think he's still super talented, but I think his talent is better off on another team. Yeah, again, we just talked about they have better role players for what they want out of that position on their team. Trade right now.
Chicago.
And, I mean, again, there's a ton of other teams that would really benefit from having him on their team. I think he can be a wide receiver 1, a top end wide receiver 2. He can have the value where people are drafting him. It's just not on San Francisco because Ayuk is a better deep down the field receiver. They, like you said, they use Kittle and then they use McCaffrey. McCaffrey's essentially, we've talked about this. He's a better version of Debo. He's a true running back that can have elite pass catching ability.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's a great secondary option. Again, he's a great athlete. He's a great wide receiver to have on your team. I just think his efficiency in terms of fantasy production is going to be completely diminished by the fact that he's there and who else is there.
No, I agree with you. I'm on the same page. I'm not high on him. I wasn't high on him last year. I mean, he had that giant year, but to me, I've never been a believer in him.
Remember when Trey Lance and Debo Samuel were the best wide receiver, quarterback keeper selection ever? Just throwing some shade on our buddy Nick.
Well, listen, you can't throw shade on him. Who's the guy who's actually keeping Amon-Ra St. Brown? So, So last year with Debo, like I said, his yards per target were 6.7. He did have a yards per reception of 11.3. So again, that yards per target is alarming to me because you're asking for yards after the catch at that point.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking for yards after the catch when your target is so low. That means they ran a lot of screens with them, a lot of swing passes. And when I looked at I'm looking up Christian McCaffrey's numbers here real quick, and his yards per target last year in San Francisco was higher than Debo Samuel's at a 7.1.
Yep.
So that says enough for me there.
Yeah. Let's go into talk about McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell because we both like them both, right?
Yeah. So, CMC we have as our number 1 overall pick in standard leagues for sure. And you could argue PPR if you want to. It depends. Full point maybe differently, but I love CMC. I think he landed in the perfect team he could have landed on from Carolina, because there were a lot of other places he could have gone that would have been tougher for him to do what he did last year. He's not being asked to be this guy to carry the ball, for 200, 300, 250, 300 times. He's going to carry the ball for, 230, 240 times, but that 2019 season with Carolina when he had 287, he's not going to have to do that here, because it's going to be more efficient runs. He's going to have better pieces around him, allowing him to be better. And then they're going to scheme him out there. He has a catch percentage last year. His catch percentage of his career is 80%. You're not going to find a receiver that good. So getting him the ball, through the air is something that San Francisco is going to scheme. And I love that.
Go ahead. Yeah. We don't have to waste too much time talking about Christian McCaffrey. He is the best running back in the league on the best running football team in the league. And that's just it. Like you can make the argument that Chubb is a better pure runner, but from a fantasy perspective, what they use from Christian McCaffrey, he is in the best situation out of any running back in the league because of how they use the running back position. But I really do want to take some time and talk about Eli Mitchell, because I can make the argument that he's the best handcuff in the league.
Well, 100%. I mean, just alone for Elijah Mitchell, what he did in 2021 in 10 games started, he was able to post up 963 yards rushing with a 4.7 average. Just blew out of the water. If it wasn't for injuries, I don't know if they would have ever had to make that trade for McCaffrey. You know what I mean? Right. But that being said, even when he came back, when McCaffrey was there and he was there at the same time, he still garnered his carries. He was able to go with a 6.2 yards per average rushing. He wasn't big and heavily used in the passing game, but nor was he in 2021, to be honest. But just alone, the fact that he still got 45 attempts on the season, and he had 2 touchdowns. The guy's going to still be used, especially not just for breathers, but situationally for the San Francisco. And if anything were to happen to McCaffrey, you got yourself a bona fide wide receiver, running back 1 on your squad still. Like if you are a McCaffrey owner, you have to find a way to get Elijah Mitchell on your squad. Plain and simple.
Yeah, I mean, if you go hero running back and you don't draft another, like if you stack up top at running back, you'll be able to survive with an injury up there. But if you have McCaffrey, especially if you're going like running back and then the next 3 picks or next 4 picks are going to be, wide receiver, tight end, quarterback, anything but running back, go ahead and handcuff McCaffrey. If you go and stack, McCaffrey, and then at the first overall pick or second overall pick, wherever he falls to in those first two picks, in the second and third round, you draft running backs, you're going to survive just fine if you hit on one of those. But yeah, Eli Mitchell is a guy that instantly can take in, can step on in, and he's already shown it that he can be 1,000-yard rusher in this league on this offense. And this goes back to talking about McCaffrey. This is the best running football team in the league, and you want a running back there. It doesn't matter who it is. It's the same reason we drafted Mozart. It's the same reason we drafted Jeff Wilson Jr. It's the same reason we drafted these nobodies for years. Not nobodies. They're really, really talented guys. But these non-premier running backs we drafted because they're in the San Francisco offense. And now you have one of the best running backs in the league and on pure talent behind that line, behind that scheme.
But here's one thing to think about too. And I think McCaffrey breaks the mold on this one. But who was the last running back for 49ers to run for 1,000 yards?
Frank Gore.
So it's been some time since that's happened. And I think it was back in 2016. Oh no, sorry, not 2016. That it was in Indy when he did that. It was San Francisco 2014 was the last time they had a 1,000-yard runner for San Francisco, I'm pretty sure. So, but again, they've also dealt with a multitude of injuries. I mean, look,
2014.
Yeah, 2014. But if you look at what's happened to them with running back wise, is they've gone through kind of a carousel because of injuries. I mean, Elijah Mitchell wasn't in 2021 wasn't supposed to be the starter that season. It was supposed to be. Mostert, and then Mostert gets hurt, and so Wilson comes in, boom, is the guy there. Before that too, the year before, wasn't it supposed to be Mostert, and then it was Jeff Wilson Jr.
Right.
So they haven't had a chance. I think McCaffrey breaks the mold here. I think he has a good shot to hit 1,000 yards and reset that clock for the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah,
so
reset that clock.
Vegas has them at 10.5. Like I said, I'd like the over on that again, just because this division does not scare me at all. But that's our NFC West breakdown preview here. If you like what we said, please leave a comment. And as usual, like and subscribe. Hit that notification button.
Please leave a comment.
Hit that notification button if you can, so that you can get all the updates and alerts to your phone or computer or whatever you may be using to watch our podcast on as we drop our new videos. As always, tune in next time.